It is a picture-perfect night where we sit at Red Bull Arena, and good to be with you once again. Game number 2, the MLS is back tournament, Group E, I should say, with Steve Jolly. I'm Matt Harmon. Our pre-match show presented by Southern New Hampshire University. Our matchup tonight, two teams undefeated so far. New York Red Bulls coming in at 2-0-1, Columbus 2-0-1 as well. We're presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Steve, you look at it for both of these teams, it's almost a situation where both of them going into the night control their own destiny.
Yeah, with the result that we saw with Cincinnati beating Atlanta, that's exactly right. This is an opportunity for both teams. They get a win, they know they're going into the next round. Simple as that.
Let's take a look at our 3 news stories for this New York Red Bull team to set up tonight's matchup, which, by the way, does not start until 10:30 tonight. We are doing our pregame show in the 7 to 8 o'clock time block to make sure that you've got time in order to get through that Montreal and Toronto game as well. The 1-0 win over Atlanta. You and I talked about it. That game for New York, so important. Get the early 3 points. And the word that I used with Chris Armas in our pre-match interview, a word that I stole from you and I talking during that match, making Atlanta uncomfortable.
Yeah, and there's so many positives that you can come from this. Not only do you get the shutout, so defensively the guys feel very comfortable defensively. Involved in the goal in terms of the build-up, solid in the midfield, just an overall, just a good performance by this Red Bull team.
Florian Valot, the goal in the 4th minute, was so good to see him back on the field. Missed 2018, missed chunks of 2019, the last 2 years. A great human interest story.
Yeah, if there's a feel-good story of 2020 so far, it has to be Florian Valot. He's done such a great job getting back, and that finish the other night was just as solid as it comes.
The save at the end of the game to secure the 3 points. David Jensen, who has started all 3 games for New York. Remember the 2 prior to the shutdown with FC Cincinnati and with Real Salt Lake. His 3rd game in a row for this New York Red Bull team, and he made the save of the game without question to lock in all 3 points.
Well, there were some nervy moments in the last 5 or 10 minutes, but he came up big in the 98th minute.
Start. We won't have the official lineup until just prior to going on until 10:30. But so many good, feel-good stories for this New York Red Bull team. Steve, more importantly, I think one of the things that maybe gets left out is this team now 2-1, 7 points through their first 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many positives to take from this. We talked about the importance of the system, the Red Bull system, and what you're finding here is a lot of players are stepping in and doing their job. We saw that perfectly in Atlanta, whether it be Brian White up top. We saw Tom Barlow do an exceptional job up top. It's exciting to see that this young team can come together for a big goal. I mean, let's talk about Champions League positions, over $1 million of prize money for this tournament. There's some big opportunities here for these players.
Let's change gears, move to Columbus, a crew team that obviously, if you've been following Major League Soccer, one of the original teams all the way back to 1996. It is a rivalry, but when you think of it for Columbus, they come off just like New York did the other night. Beating Atlanta, they come off a rivalry game. The hell is real rivalry, and boy, did they put a whipping on Cincinnati.
Yeah, there's not much of a rivalry game when you're playing against a Columbus team like that. I mean, 4 goals. Zardes is in top 4, and Zelarayan, as you can see here, this service is absolutely amazing, and obviously we're going to talk a little bit about those 2 players in a second.
You think about Giazzi Zardes, he's made his name in Major League Soccer. He's been a goal scorer. He's got U.S. men's national team experience as well. When he's on, I think he could be one of, or right at the top of the list of guys who just know how to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously been involved with the national team as well, and I would fully expect that over the next 16 months, 2 years, to be continue to be involved with the national team. He's such a great talent.
When you think of the other piece for Columbus that spent some money in the offseason, Lucas Zelarayan coming over from Argentina, he is a classic number 10. Pulls the strings, sets things up, can attack towards goal. Dangerous guy we'll keep an eye on tonight.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be one of the keys. Zelarayan does a great job seeing different players making the runs, and obviously he has Zardes up top to find as much as often.
We saw not 1 but 2 homegrown guys get an opportunity off the bench the other night for Columbus. Sebastian Berhalter and Aiden Morris. Columbus going with that homegrown model. Those two of a bunch of guys in terms of youth that they're trying to implement.
Well, Caleb Porter believes in giving opportunities to young players, and I would be surprised during the course of this tournament that those young players aren't given more time.
We will take a look at what we've got coming up out of action tonight. A big injury for Columbus. The crew, Vito Wormhor, is out tonight. Ankle injury suffered the other night.
Yeah, don't underestimate the inherent value of Wormhor in that lineup. For him to come down with an injury and him not to be available tonight is a huge, huge opportunity for this Red Bull team.
That out of action tonight presented by Sports Care, the official physical therapy partner of the New York Red Bulls. Sports Care, we're not just sports, we're all about the care. For New York, one guy that we're keeping an eye on, whether or not Matthias Jorgensen will make his way, probably not into the starting lineup, but does he get into the 23 overall? He's been bothered a little bit by a hamstring injury.
Yeah, and he's a player that obviously needs some important minutes. Didn't get much on the first team last season, but we're expecting him to be fine going forward.
Moving into our overall matchup history, we said these teams so familiar with one another. They've played in the playoffs a couple of times over the course of the last couple of years. This regular season matchup between the two, you see overall New York leading it just by the slimmest of margins, 30 wins, 29 losses, 12 draws.
Yeah, you know, this is a Columbus Crew team historically that's always had that kind of number 10, whether it be Higuain or, you know, in this case, Zelarayan. But this is a talented team playing with all the confidence in the world right now. So this is a big test.
Playing with a lot of confidence overall the last couple of years in the regular season, at least. Columbus has kind of had Steve's New York number a little bit. Chris Armas will try and change that tonight.
Yeah, and it's important that he changes that tonight. I think this is a great opportunity for this Red Bull team for a number of reasons. But, you know, you can tell that this team, whether you're reading it in their articles, this is a team that's inspired by this tournament, knows that it's a great opportunity to kind of set everybody on a specific, you know, bigger stage. And I love reading these articles that talk about that this team is together. They understand the system. They understand their roles and responsibilities. We saw it against Atlanta. Hopefully, again, we'll see it tonight against Columbus Crew.
Last time that the teams made the playoffs together and played, 2018, it was New York who had to come back home in the Eastern Conference semifinal. They had a dominant performance that night. It was one of the funner games I can clearly remember at our perch on the 6th floor. But, you know, I always feel like when these teams play each other, it's such a contrast style, whether it was Greg Berhalter, now Caleb Porter, what each team wants to do and accomplish, it's just it's opposite of each other.
Yeah, this is one of the games when I was telling my friends, you know, I was talking about in the last 48 hours or so, they were talking, which game should I watch? I only watch one or two games. I'm like, watch this game because of the contrasting styles. You have this pressing team like Red Bull. You have a team like Columbus Crew that likes to possess the ball and go sometimes left or right. It's just an enjoyable opportunity to see two teams who I think are the upper echelons of Major League Soccer and two, like you said, different styles of play, and they get it done.
And two teams tonight that with 3 more points really have a stranglehold on Group E, trying to move into the knockout stage of this MLS is Back tournament. Time to take a look at our keys to the game. We are presented by your local Tri-Honda dealer. Partner, you were pretty good the other night with the keys.
I love that. Thank you. Tell me as much as possible whenever I do something
right. You were
right.
pretty good, but the question everybody wants to know, can you do it again tonight?
We'll see. We'll see. Let's talk about the first one. It's locking it down. If there's one thing that we know from that first game against Atlanta, we did an exceptional job defensively, at least for 75, 80 minutes. A little nervy the last 10 or 15 minutes. It's important that we continue to lock it down. Don't give them too many goal scoring opportunities, especially with a guy like Zardes. The injury to Wormhor, we talked about a little bit more. We don't know exactly who's going to step into his role, but he is a dominant defender, and they're going to sorely miss him. And then keep pressing. Don't give up. This is a time to, you know, it's not about winning possession or having the possession. It's completely and utterly overrated. You got to unsettle their back line, and now that we know that Wormhor's not playing, you got to go at him.
Yeah, be interesting to see who Caleb Porter puts in that spot for Wormhor. He's got a couple of options. We'll, again, have the lineup just prior to kickoff, which we will have for you, by the way, on the New York Red Bulls radio network. Coming up, we'll sit down with Red Bull head coach Chris Armas, the Red Bulls pre-match show presented by Southern New Hampshire University.
If you want to start something or make some noise, if you want to change the world, or just how you see it. If you want to light up the dark or own the moment. If you want to stay ahead of the curve or take it right to the edge. There's nothing stopping you.
Was all-wheel drive engaged on that? Didn't feel like it.
Quattro all-wheel drive. There's nothing like it in the universe.
You spent the past few months taking extra precautions to keep safe. Thank you for that. Now it's time to remember that staying healthy is part of staying safe. At Hackensack Meridian Health, we've taken safety, cleanliness, and screening to new levels of excellence, giving you the peace of mind to return for necessary surgery, emergency treatment, pediatric care, as well as heart and cancer screenings. Our healthcare heroes are ready to care for you.
It's been a while since we shared those last moments at home, and a lot has changed. The world shut down. We found ourselves lost, but we found a way. Our heroes kept us in the game, and our community came together like never before. This beautiful game will continue to provide us the strength to keep moving forward.
In life, we come to expect certain things. Light bulbs light and tigers roar. But what if we came to expect something more? At Honda, that's just what we do. And it's led us to the Honda Accord LX, with more standard torque and passenger volume than a Toyota Camry. Hurry into your local Honda dealer and test drive the Honda Accord today to see what expecting more gets you.
Based on comparably equipped models.
We are back here. It's the Red Bulls pre-match show. We're presented by Southern New Hampshire University. Are you 6 feet? Is this 6 feet?
I made sure that it was 6 feet. I actually asked for 8 to 10 feet with you, but this is the best I could get.
Hurtful as always. Hurtful as always. It's time for our pre-match interview with Red Bull head coach Chris Armas. It's brought to you by your local Chi Honda dealer. Get pumped before every match in a brand new Honda. Stream your pregame playlist right from your device with Honda Link technology and smartphone connectivity. Visit your local Chi Honda dealer for the best offers. Honda, official partner of the New York Red Bulls.
Off the 1-0 win over Atlanta United, it's the Red Bulls taking on Columbus. Giving us some time here in our pre-match interview is the head coach, Chris Armas. Coach, go back to that game a couple of nights back against Atlanta, the rivalry between the two of you. Steve and I both thought at many times during the course of the night, the word we used was uncomfortable. From a team mentality perspective, it seemed like that was the game plan for you to try and make Atlanta as uncomfortable as possible, and it succeeded.
Yeah, we think we executed the plan, which was to control spaces. So I think the way our guys understand that is you first have to understand what Atlanta wants to do. So if you start talking like that as you create a strategy, where do they want to play? Who do they want to get on the ball? What spaces do they like to be in? How do they want to control the game? Do they want to control the game? And when you know they're a possession team, when you know they play, the three in the back and they push their wingers up high, but they also want to come through the middle and get some of their playmakers on the ball. That's the starting point. So by us, we thought about pressing them out of the mid block, running at them to take time and space away. We talk about creating these jumpy moments. So, and oftentimes you saw in the second half, even if you give their defenders too much time on the ball, they start rotating guys in front of you and they start moving around, and their system and what they want to do does require them to have time and space on the ball. So very simply, we tried to take time and space away. And we do think we did a good job at that. And it's a big demand because it takes a lot of focus, and it's 11 guys being on the same page, and every guy knows where they need to be and when they need to go and where they need to go and in what way. And a lot of little triggers, we say, a lot of pressing triggers that can confine them to one side of the field. There's certain players that are pressing triggers. Could be a specific player that we're going after when he gets the ball. In saying that, in the end, they get a couple of chances, and we create 4 really good ones. And
it turned out, Coach, to be the game's only goal for Florian Valot. Came pretty early in the match. But aside from him back on the field, It's been talked about Major League Soccer. I actually had an interview this past week with a radio station in Columbus, and that was kind of one of the themes, how great it is after the couple of years that he's had with the back-to-back ACLs to see him healthy, back on the field, his personality coming through, and just how important he is to your team.
He from the soccer standpoint, and in a 4-2-2-2, we call that third line of 10s, playmakers. So they're interior. They're not the left and right midfielder are inside tucked in. That's not so easy because it requires players like that, whether it was Kaku, Flo Valot, Sasha Kleshin, these types of players that can operate when there's not a lot of space. You have to be intelligent. You have to have, we say, soft feet to be very technical in there. And then so he offers that almost like you do have two playmakers in there. And on the goal, you get to see he gets rewarded in a big way. But so he has shown that he can make final passes in the final third, and he can also score goals. That's the first part. The second part is the human standpoint, where I've seen him suffer through a couple of ACL injuries, and I know that it's a physical stress. I've been through it myself, and there's a mental stress where you question. The pro athletes are at the highest level. They're like race cars. They're invincible. They're fast. They're strong. And when you go through that, you do question it. This body that once was invincible, it makes you second guess. Hey, are you going to hold up for me, man? Like, come on, and that's not easy. And then you get knocked down. So to see him work hard, to come back, to get injured again, to work hard, come back, and to perform, and it's really, it's one of the things I love about this job. It's teaching, it's the game, it's tactics, but seeing growth and success in players, it's probably the biggest job for me to help players become the best version of themselves. But then, of course, how that fits into helping the team win.
Coach, this second game, a team that you are very familiar with, a team that is very familiar with you, the Columbus Crew, one of the originals, just like the Metro Stars, now Red Bulls organization. Is it another one of those games where you would, in a way, expect very little in terms of you not being sure what they want to do and they not being sure what you want to do?
Well, I think, a game, we just came out of a game that we thought we knew Atlanta, they knew us. They probably know how we play, we press. They didn't know exactly how we would press, but I think we all understood each other and what we might do. We thought Atlanta would play more direct. They played 80-something long balls. We had 50-something long. So we got that right. We think we know this opposition. We think we know Columbus. They got Nagby. They got Artur. They build with the sixes. They have four guys up the field with Zardes dropping behind your back line, good on crosses in a 4-2-3-1. These guys that can overload certain areas. They can also play with wingers like Derek Etienne, and they attack with fullbacks, but they're largely built on possession. Knowing me asking myself what I think they might do, or what do they want to do and what will they actually do? I think they're going to try to play direct. I think they're going to try to get behind us. I think they're going to understand that they got to bring the intensity to compete for second balls, and it's going to be a game about field position. I know this. It's so much more reliant on us. Like, where do we want to play the game? What do we want the game to look like? And we want to, again, it's a good we had a 90-minute training session on that, essentially, against Atlanta, of taking time and space away, making them uncomfortable, controlling spaces, winning the battle of second balls, starting the match with intensity and energy. That's exactly what we want to do again and put them in a difficult game.
From a lineup perspective, obviously you were happy with the way that your first 11 began the game, as it will be the same 11 in game number 2.
Yes, we think it sets up, the opponent sets up very similarly, and we think that there was a lot of good performances. We think that guys come out of that game with lots of good minutes in heat and humidity, and from a physical standpoint are probably the most suitable guys to do that. And we got a good run through of how to use substitutions, how to use 5 substitutions with only 3 opportunities to do so. So we do think that for our plan of the match, that the same lineup makes a lot of sense from the start.
Coach, when you think of it, I mean, listen, once you get up and going into the normal kind of season, you'd play a game on Saturday, you could play a game on Wednesday. Is there anything that you've done different because of the way that the season has now restarted itself, with taking a couple of days in between, trying to obviously keep guys fresh, keep training with a lot of the hotel time? What's been different maybe in this kind of playing the 2 games in the span of a few as to what normally would be the situation?
Well, yeah, like in a tournament style setup, as a coaching staff, we understand that these games are part of a bigger picture called the season. So they're part of the standings. We have 7 points, but it's not, the players are not in that mindset. They have to be in the mindset of the playoff mentality. That every play matters. Every set piece is important. Scoring first is a big deal. Win the first game out of the group, good chance you can move on. Like, it sets you up in certain ways. But when you're around, when the group is together like this, in a World Cup style, tournament style, you have, in my opinion, what's very, very different is you have to be really mindful of workloads, mindful of how much video you give, but you got to give it. Mindful of the physical and mental challenge of being away from home and families, and in this difficult time of what our country is going through. So you have to think about managing the group, knowing where they are, what's ahead. And I think that's very different from a normal, league game.
Coach, I appreciate the time. Best of luck in this one against Columbus. The 3 points in this one would go a long way for either team, locking in that top spot in Group Number E. We appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you post-game.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
That is Red Bull head coach Chris Armas. We will take a break here on our pre-match show presented by Southern New Hampshire University. We're back after this to continue. Kickoff coming just after 10:30.
All systems go.
5, 4, 3, and lift off.
Audi e-tron, the next frontier of electric.
If you want to start something, or make some noise, if you want to change the world, or just how you see it, if you want to light up the dark, or own the moment, if you want to stay ahead of the curve, or take it right to the edge, there's nothing stopping you.
Make Speedway your local go-to shop for hot and cold beverages, fresh food, snacks, fuel service, and more. Besides our convenient and friendly service, enjoy a variety of your favorite products at a value you'll love. Download our mobile app today to learn about Speed Rewards program and to access exclusive offers. Plus, learn how Speedway is supporting your community by donating to New York area Children's Miracle Network hospitals. With your help, we are fueling miracles. Welcome back to Red Bull Arena at Harrison, New Jersey. Matt Harmon, Steve Jolly will have the radio call for you. Coming up at 10:30, it is the Columbus Crew and the New York Red Bulls playing game number 2 of Group E. The winner of this one really controls their own destiny. We're presented here by Southern New Hampshire University. Steve, as we kind of spend a little bit of time looking, everyone now has played at least a game in this MLS's back tournament. What's been your impressions so far as to how teams are performing?
Yeah, it's kind of what I expected, quite frankly, and that's to assume that these teams and these players haven't played games in a long, long time, almost 4 months, just over 4 months, and so it took some time for some teams and some players to get moving. But overall, the quality, the level of play has been high, and it continues to get higher and higher as the tournament goes along.
And one of the things that's been exciting, I think, to watch is teams playing all the way through. What we've seen, and we saw it the other night with Atlanta, is at the end of the first half, at the end of the second half, when you factor in the hydration break, substitutions, perhaps a goal here or there, injuries, you're looking at anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes of stoppage time at the end of either half. So teams are playing those extra minutes. There's been a lot of late-game heroics for particular teams to make sure that they get a point or, in some cases, all 3.
And that, we mentioned it in the first broadcast of the inherent value of that 5 substitutions. That is an absolutely huge, huge opportunity for players to step in and be dangerous. In this case, in terms of late-game heroics, this is players coming in with a lot of energy, and it's making it exciting that last 15, 20 minutes.
Minnesota had a late win against Sporting Kansas City. D.C. and Toronto, they played to a 2-2 draw. And then you look at it, the game last night between San Jose and Vancouver, absolutely crazy when you go back and look at the stats. I think San Jose had 22 corners, 31 shots. They got the late goal to get all 3 points. They were down a couple of goals during the course of the match. But I think that's kind of been one of the things about this. What team can hold up during tough conditions?
Yeah, it's hold up and tough, and that's the reason why we go back and time again and talk about the inherent value of having a good system in play. When you make all those substitutions, you've got to know when those players are put into the game, they have to understand their responsibility in that position.
We don't do this very often, but we're going to hop into the rumor mill a little bit in terms of things involving Major League Soccer teams. Arturo Vidal, player from Barcelona, Chilean international.
I've heard him.
He is rumored, at least, to be someone who's on the radar for Inter Miami.
Yeah, here's a player who, to this day, is still a starter for Barcelona. When you look at his resume, the last teams he played Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Juventus, and Bayer Leverkusen. I haven't seen a resume that good since Matt Harmon's.
Well done. Let's segue into our time to get on the road with Audi. We'll look back at some of the games so far. The MLS is back tournament. We talked about some of them already. Tuesday, New York City and Orlando. They played to a 3-1. Chris Mueller has been lights out so far in this tournament. One of Orlando's most exciting players, and to me, he's been one of the best guys throughout the entire tournament so far.
I completely and utterly agree with you. I think the combination of Mueller and Zardes are the 2 players that I think have kind of stepped it up to the next level so far.
One of the other games we were just talking about, Inter Miami, Philadelphia was the team. That was a good back-and-forth game. You get a goal for Philly, who's also been very good. Kasper Shabilko, Kai Wagner each put the ball in the back of the net. Jim Curtin has his Union team looking very strong.
Really, really strong. And obviously with those victories, Orlando and Philadelphia moved to that round of 16, and those are 2 deserving teams.
Earlier today, the 9 a.m. game was Atlanta United against FC Cincinnati, a team in Atlanta that New York just beat, a team that in Cincinnati Columbus just beat in the first game. Surprising game, weird how it played out. Atlanta was left with 9 guys. Cincinnati gets a goal. They win it 1-0.
Yeah, it gets interesting here in Group E. I love this result. That forces this Columbus team to have to play an Atlanta team next that is desperate for points. That's good news for Red Bull.
We can take a look at all the updated standings again. We've already seen everybody play at least 1 game so far in the tournament. Some have played 2 in that Group A. You mentioned Orlando, Philly. They're already through. Now, the interesting thing for Miami and New York City, remember, top 2 teams from each group go through, but 4 third-place teams will also go through, so there will be something to play for.
And that's what makes this tournament so interesting, is because every single game, literally every single game that we're going to see is going to matter in some form or fashion.
San Jose scored the 4 goals. They got the 3 points. They sit right now based on goal differential. Chicago, and then you've got Seattle and Vancouver. To me, that group has still a long way to go to be figured out.
That one's wide open.
Let's change gears, look over to Group C and D. New England, the team, 3 points so far. DC United won, Toronto won. We talked about that game being back and forth. They wound up splitting the points. Montreal, a team that is trying to get themselves on track. Montreal and Toronto, the 8 o'clock game tonight.
Yeah, it's a rivalry game, so it's going to mean a lot to that Montreal-Toronto game. But, we're going to tune in. It's going to be an enjoyable ride.
Group D, very balanced across. Salt Lake, Minnesota, they both won their opening games, 3 points. Sporting Kansas City, Colorado, trying to, figure things out as they go through. But I think Group D also one that is pretty wide open. We've been talking about Group E because it is where this New York Red Bull team sits and just how important this game is tonight. You see Columbus, the 3 points, Red Bulls with 3. Anybody gets all of the points tonight here, Giles. Not only have they locked a spot into the next round, they feel good about just winning the entire group.
Oh, I completely agree. It's going to make an exciting environment, especially for this Red Bull team. We talked about the importance of going out right away and putting pressure on this Columbus team. This is a good opportunity to get some points and secure yourself to that round of 16.
Portland, the team right now that is on top of Group F with Houston, LAFC, and the LA Galaxy, all trying to make sure that they can get themselves into the last 16. That's a look at our standings. Now, let us take one last look at what New York did on Saturday night over Atlanta with a 1-0 win.
Equipment room, everything is ready for tonight.
Hello. Hello.
Game jerseys being pressed right now. It's home, but in a hotel, right?
Game day today. It's been 127 days since we last played a competitive game, and it was in Salt Lake. And today is our first game of the tournament. Kind of excited, anxious to get out there and be playing. We know it's going to be difficult, seeing all the first games that have been happening. People cramping. Conditions are tough, humidity, heat, but still really thankful to be there and be able to play and really excited. I think the whole group is excited, and we can't wait to get out there and compete.
Yeah. Hey, now more than ever, we got to have a great start. Let's be alert right from the kickoff, win all of our duels all over the field.
And so with that, 4 months of shutdown, 3 days of watching other teams get on the field for these two teams, MLS is back. We are underway. Through the middle, it's offside. Florian Valot found a hole in the defense, and Florian Valot has scored! Missed most of the last 2 years with ACL injuries. Florian Valot back on the field, and the New York Red Bulls take the early lead.
What a break from the Red Bulls there, and the early lead in the 5th minute.
Yeah, I think it's been difficult for everybody, but I think it was important to score early and reward the team for the first 5-10 minutes that we had. We pushed really hard. Obviously, it's really rewarding for myself after what I've been through for the last 2 years, but it's all credit for the team, and I'm really happy we get out with the win today.
Yeah, I'm really proud of our boys. It's always a difficult match, the first one of group play. Atlanta is one of the benchmarks of the league. Games usually go in little ebbs and flows, and we thought we were even better in the second half. That the first half was a little bit back and forth, and they moved us around a little bit when they had the ball, and they're good at that. But I think our guys defensively were tight in the second half and created a lot of chances. And for sure, it's a great victory to start the tournament for our guys.
Now off the ensuing corner, P.T. Martinez into the near post, sent away, bodies going down. Alan Chapman ends the game. The Red Bulls hold on.
So guys, what you do for the folks, our people back home and our families back home, so if someone says thank you, I said, well, thank me, thank you guys. It's you guys. And now we tighten it before the next one, and we keep taking steps forward. All right, boys? Yes. Good? Good.
One of the fun things about those post-game looks, and we've talked about him, Florian Valot doing the vlogging during the course of the tournament. It's been so fun to see that inside look that we provide you at NewYorkRedBulls.com. Coming up, we'll take a look around the community on the New York Red Bulls pre-match show presented by Southern New Hampshire University.
Was all-wheel drive engaged on that? Didn't feel like it.
Quattro all-wheel drive. There's nothing like it in the universe.
You spent the past few months taking extra precautions to keep safe. Thank you for that. Now it's time to remember that staying healthy is part of staying safe. At Hackensack Meridian Health, we've taken safety, cleanliness, and screening to new levels of excellence, giving you the peace of mind to return for necessary surgery, emergency treatment, pediatric care, as well as heart and cancer screenings. Our healthcare heroes are ready to care for you.
Provident Bank believes commitment isn't something you say, it's something you do. That's why they back it up day in and day out. In checking accounts with better rewards, with lenders that understand your business needs, and by supporting teams with the most committed fans. That's why Provident Bank is proud to be the official banking partner of the New York Red Bulls and unofficially the most committed bank in the world. Learn more at provident.bank.
We are back from Red Bull Arena. Matt Harmon, Steve Jolly, your radio crew. We've got the call for you on our TuneIn radio channel. It's New York and Columbus coming up at 10:30 tonight. Our pre-match show presented by Southern New Hampshire University. For tonight's New Jersey Lottery look back, a good one here today, right in line with kind of the date of where we sit, July 13th, 2010. That was the day that the New York Red Bulls announced the signing of one of the biggest names in the world of soccer. Probably heard of him, Steve. Thierry Henry?
I've never heard of him, but I'm looking up at the stadium here, and it says his name, so I guess he was okay.
And his name right prior to yours as it goes across. Let's take a look at some of Thierry's highlights in a New York Red Bulls uniform. The New York Red Bulls Local Assist Program looks to support local business during this difficult time. If you haven't figured out your match day meal, want to try something new, or just want to support a locally owned restaurant, visit NewYorkRedBulls.com/local assist to find a restaurant in your backyard. If you're a local business owner yourself, feel free to fill out the form at the bottom of the page on the website to be featured in this program. Our homegrown hero, the community, is the heartbeat of our club. We'd like to take some time and thank all of our heroes for doing their part during this difficult time. This week's homegrown hero is Gladys Argueta, a field nurse from Horizon New Jersey Health. Gladys has been a Red Bull supporter for the last 6 years and is currently a board member for the Viking Army. One of her main goals is to build programs in her native of El Salvador. She stated, "We come here for the American dream and work to achieve it, but at the same time, never forget where you come from, what you've learned, what you've gained, and what she's been able to accomplish. I can't keep that to myself. I've been able to keep sharing and keep helping others because that's what I love." Congratulations, Gladys, on being this week's homegrown hero. Matt Harmon, Steve Jolly, we talked about one of the real neat features during the time of this MLS is Back tournament has been Florian Valot vlogging. He was the hero on Saturday night. He's been documenting the team time in Orlando. Here are some of the moments that he's captured over the course of his time down in Florida.
Alright, here we are. Hello. Bought some books. My stuff in the mat there. Some notebooks because I've been writing a lot lately. Speaker, switch, and of course some snacks.
so humid. Not that hot, but it's fine. I think I'm gonna go do some playing.
You guys look ripped.
Training time.
I love the attention. You think find a girlfriend, that's what's gonna help you, you know?
Team room where we eat our meals.
Florian Valot, he's going to have a good career after his soccer playing career doing video work. The only thing missing, Steve, probably you and I down as part of that mix in the Disney complex. Key players next. Our pre-match show continues, presented by Southern New Hampshire University.
Eagle, go. E-chop, go. FIL, go. Go. Yes, go. 15 seconds. Guidance, switch to internal.
Come on, hurry up. All systems go.
5, 4, 3.
Audi e-tron, the next frontier of electric.
If you want to start something, or make some noise, if you want to change the world, or just how you see it, if you want to light up the dark, or own the moment, if you want to stay ahead of the curve, or take it right to the edge, there's nothing stopping you.
Red Bull fans, we've partnered with Affinity Federal Credit Union to bring you the first ever New York Red Bulls credit card. The RBNY Rewards Card let you earn points to redeem for team merchandise, exclusive experiences, and more. Earn triple points when using it at Red Bull Arena, on Red members, and all sporting good purchases. Make sure you sign up today. Your club, more rewards.
Welcome back to our pre-match show presented by Southern New Hampshire University. Matt Harmon, Steve Jolly, your radio crew. Coming up 10:30 kickoff time, slightly after, probably a couple of minutes with Columbus and New York. Game 2 of group letter E to see who can get the 3 points potentially and control their own destiny going through into the knockout round. The other guys who usually occupy this spot, Shep Messing and Steve Cangelosi, they usually do the pregame show. We are enjoying their spot. We'll hear right now from the guys of the MSG Network with a little bit more on their game tonight.
Game 2 of the MLS's back tournament for the Red Bulls and the Columbus Crew. Shep, this has the feeling of a heavyweight fight, doesn't it?
Yeah, Steve, I love it, really. I mean, a great win against Atlanta, and those teams have a rivalry, Atlanta and New York, but this is a big one coming up. And look, we all thought coming into the season before the break that Columbus was going to be a very, very good team. Caleb Porter got his man that he wanted, so we thought they'd be good. But right now, early in group stage, this is a big game.
Red Bulls have Atlanta's number in the regular season over the course of the last few years. They looked comfortable on Saturday night in their first win. There were times maybe you thought you were watching a Red Bulls team of 2 years ago when they won Supporters' Shield. But Darlington Nagbe for Columbus looked very comfortable in his first game of this tournament. How do the Red Bulls stop them?
Yeah, Stephen, I always say you really need that one maestro someplace in the midfield to dictate the tempo, rhythm, the ebb and flow of the game. Nagbe was a difference maker. How do you stop him? I don't think it's one player. I think it's a trio of Kaku tracking him into the feet of Sean Davis and Caceres. between those three players, they have to try and deny him space to the ball.
4-0 win for Columbus in its debut in this tournament. Attacking players need confidence. Giassi Zardes, off a 2-goal performance, has confidence. So does Lucas Zelarayan, making a case for newcomer of the year. He scored on a splendid free kick. This is a challenge for the Red Bulls. Can they approach the match the same way they did against Atlanta?
Well, Steve, one of the things I liked best about the Atlanta game was the way Chris Armas had the team ready to play different styles, right? They came out with high pressure, created the early goal, then they sat back, that first line of confrontation more like the midfield strike, and they changed how they played. You have to be able to do it. In the heat and humidity of Orlando, you can't expect all-out pressure for 90 minutes. So this is going to be a huge challenge against Columbus. I think they can do it. They've got to remember to get forward as well. They've got to get Columbus at times during the game back on their heels defending.
As they try to build on their 1-0 victory over Atlanta, that first lineup, I think, surprised some people. Amro Tarek in place of Tim Parker. Tom Barlow, who did some subtle things very well, in place of Brian White. Do you expect that to be the norm as this tournament continues?
I think there is no norm in the world, in this tournament, in Major League Soccer. But I do think Chris Armas out-coached Frank de Boer in the first game, and I think he's really stepped up his game, Armas. So he has a lot of tools, he has depth on the bench, and he has different variations, both in personnel and style that he can play.
If there's a winner late Thursday night, that team takes control of Group E. And the team that does ultimately finish first in Group E will have 2 extra days of rest to prepare for the round of 16. But the Red Bulls are off and running, and they look to go 2-0 in the tournament against the Columbus Crew Thursday night.
We certainly appreciate the guys of MSG Network, Shep Messing and Steve Cangelosi, sharing their space with us as we bring you the pre-match show. Group E matchup coming up this evening, 10:30, Columbus and the New York Red Bulls. Steve, you listen to those two guys, and I think their take very similar to ours. Can New York replicate a performance that they did the other night against Atlanta? Can they figure out tactically how maybe to attack this Columbus team?
Yeah, it's going to, let's be honest, this is a Columbus team that's a little bit different than Atlanta. They're going to try to control the midfield, control possession, and then kind of, if they can, find Zardes as much as possible. But I really, truly believe this Red Bull team can be successful tonight if they just come out and do the same thing. If they can get that early goal, that would be huge. But this is a Red Bull team that you know is going to be organized, but more importantly, they know how important this 3 points are for the entire tournament. So they're going to come at this Columbus team not worried about it.
The entire tournament and an opportunity to pick up 3 more points in the regular season as well. Let's take a look at our Wells Fargo key players for tonight's matchup, and a good matchup. When you think of it, control the midfield. That's what any coach would say going into pretty much any game, and we've got 2 very good defensive-minded number 6s. First for New York, the youngster Christian Cáceres, who has been a great ball winner. He's a good combination. He can get forward in the attack. He can put the ball in the back of the net. But what he does more so than anything else, he's a bulldog winning the ball.
Yeah, Cáceres is one of our key players because we need him to be a bulldog. This midfield, Celerion, Arturo, Nagby, maybe even Berhalter, that's one of the better midfields in all of Major League Soccer. So we want to make sure that Cáceres is at his top form tonight.
At his top form for sure, and he will be tested without question. Steve talked about some of the attacking players that we might see for Columbus. On the flip side, you look at it, we talked about a matchup of the number 6s. Control it, 20-year-old player in Christian Cáceres, a veteran player on the opposite side, Darlington Nagby. He's been all over the place at Portland with Atlanta. Caleb Porter wanted him. Caleb Porter got him, and now he's in an opportunity to really control things in the midfield for this Columbus Crew team.
Well, obviously, over the last week, there's been a lot of talk about Celerion and Zardes scoring goals, but I got to tell you, the engine of this team is Darlington Nagby. Caleb Porter went out to get a player like that because he knows he fits the system. We've got to control Nagby. It's so important that Cáceres and Sean Davis, the entire midfield, are engaged and involved in making sure that Darlington Nagby is not a part of this game.
Well, you think of it, too, from a standpoint of for Columbus with Nagbe, you've got Artur there. Maybe you see some kind of lineup rotation. We didn't see Pedro Santos the other night.
Yeah.
Is he an option tonight for Caleb Porter? Celerayón, a guy that can pull the strings at the number 10 spot. This is a pretty deep-minded midfield-type team with some young guys in the fold as well for Caleb Porter for Columbus.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, and especially in this tournament, I wouldn't be surprised if there are a couple of changes, but in saying that, it doesn't change what we're doing, and that's why I think we're going to have success in this tournament, is that we know our system, we're going to play it. Whomever we're playing against, we're still going to do our system.
Always going to do the system. As they've said the last couple of years, the system can be the star, and New York hopes tonight that the opportunity to pick up 3 points in the Group E matchup will send them to the top and into the knockout round. We'll be right back with our final thoughts on the Red Bull Prematch Show, presented by Southern New Hampshire University.
If you want to start something, or make some noise, if you want to change the world, or just how you see it, if you want to light up the dark, or own the moment, if you want to stay ahead of the curve, or take it right to the edge, there's nothing stopping you.
You spent the past few months taking extra precautions to keep safe. Thank you for that. Now it's time to remember that staying healthy is part of staying safe. At Hackensack Meridian Health, we've taken safety, cleanliness, and screening to new levels of excellence, giving you the peace of mind to return for necessary surgery, emergency treatment, pediatric care, as well as heart and cancer screenings. Our healthcare heroes are ready to care for you.
It's been a while since we shared those last moments at home, and a lot has changed. The world shut down. We found ourselves lost, but we found a way. Our heroes kept us in the game, and our community came together like never before. This beautiful game will continue to provide us the strength to keep moving forward.
Welcome back to the New York Red Bulls pre-match show presented by Southern New Hampshire University. You usually hear us on the radio. You will tonight for the 10:30 game Group E with the Columbus Crew presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Before that, we're actually leading you into the other game of the night, an important one, and the Canadian matchup. Montreal taking on Toronto FC, game that can be found on Fox Sports 1. They'll kick it just after 8 o'clock. We looked at the bracket and the standings of all the groups earlier, Steve. For this Toronto team, they were able to get a point from Montreal. They really need to get something out of this game.
Yeah, and Grant Vanny's been, quoted so many times over the last couple of days of trying to get points here against this Montreal team. He has a lot of confidence against Thierry Henry's team.
Yeah, should be interesting to see how these teams kind of go at one another. The rivalry certainly exists there, and whether or not how attacking-minded. Thierry Henry, who we just talked about in our NJ Lottery look back, is now the coach of Montreal. Since taking over, factor in a couple of Champions League games as well. His side has only won once since he took over.
Yeah, and I think he's looking at this tournament as an opportunity to really kind of get his team together and get some momentum, some juice going here, because it's been a slow start for him.
Yeah, 10:30 again, our game with New York and Columbus matching up. Red members, if you are registered for Members Plus, here's your chance to earn points for watching today's broadcast. Visit NewYorkRedBullsMembers.com and enter RBNYVCLB in the voucher code box. It'll earn you 1,000 points. The code is active until 1 hour after the match tonight. Better be up late.
Yeah.
Grab a couple of Red Bulls if you need them. It's going to be a late night for us. We've got post-match coverage that you can watch tomorrow morning as well. So you can go to bed listening to us. You can wake up watching us. Fantastic.
Yeah, it is fantastic. You got a great game here. You're going to play against Columbus Crew that right now leads the league in goals scored and also goals against. They're doing a great job. This is a big test for us, but in saying that, I have all the confidence in the world. 3 games, we've had 5 different goal scorers.
Time for our TCL Man of the Match predictions. TCL, the official smartphone provider of the New York Red Bulls. Vote on your TCL Man of the Match on Twitter beginning in the 75th minute. Love putting you on the spot. Who's the man of the match tonight for New York?
I think it's going to be a surprise goal scorer. Somebody like a Sean Davis, where you don't expect him to get a goal. I still think set pieces for us could be a difference. That's, obviously guys like Aaron Long getting forward. But I think it's going to be that kind of unpredictable name. I told you I love the fact that we have so much diversification in terms of who's scoring goals. I think that theme continues tonight.
So you're going Sean Davis?
I'm going Sean Davis.
Sean Davis, just throw it out there and see what you bring back. Find out who won the TCL Man of the Match on the New York Red Bulls post-match show, which we will have for you tomorrow morning on YouTube, 8:30. You can catch that.
If that happens, I want some major love if Sean Davis is that man of the match.
There's plenty of love all the time, without question. Final thoughts, Steve, for this one. We've talked about it. Group E kind of up for grabs here tonight. You've got Columbus 3 points, Red Bulls 3. Remember, Cincinnati won their game earlier today, so they've got 3 points. You get 3 tonight, whether you're Columbus or New York. Obviously, we want the team in red or black, as it would stand, to come through. You get 6 after the night. You're into the knockout stage. You can kind of worry about that last game, which will be next Wednesday against FC Cincinnati.
Yeah, I just think this is one of those games where you sit back, enjoy yourself, because this is going to be a wonderful ride. 2 really, really good teams that are playing at a high level right now. 2 different styles we talked about earlier, but this is one of the games where I circled right away. And I know that we're obviously involved with Red Bull, but I just think because of the systems, because of the players who are playing, this is an excellent opportunity for us to really enjoy a late Thursday night game.
One of the things that I talked about with Chris Armas in our coaches interview is which one of these teams maybe blinks a little bit. Is it New York that pulls the press back in game number 2? Is it Columbus who tries to maybe attack New York a little bit more? Or is it predictable? New York presses, Columbus plays the long ball, they try and possess a little bit, but as we saw teams do oftentimes last year, can you skip that first line? Good coaching matchup as well between Caleb Porter and Chris Armas.
It is, and all those intangibles are really fun to watch. And I still think, making sure that we kind of lock it down. We talked about the keys of the game. You can't let Zardes off your shoulder if you're a defender, because he's got a lot of pace and he can finish right now. He's gotten so much more confidence in terms of getting in front of the net and finishing it. So we can't, kind of tune out for a second there. But I just think I think this is one of the games so far in this tournament where, you're going to see top level. You're going to see mid-season kind of form kind of game.
I was going to ask you, and it was such a point of emphasis for us the other night, how the substitutions get used. So everyone has played the game. Columbus, the win over Cincinnati, New York beating Atlanta, a couple of days off, then you get back to training. Do heavy legs become any consideration in the second game? It's kind of it's usually that middle game. You can kind of say, all right, let's push through the third, excited for the first. It's usually the second game in any group kind of situation where maybe you see some teams, some players struggle a little bit.
Well, in this specific situation, I think both teams are looking at they've got to get the points. If they get the points, then they can kind of chill out a little bit on that third game. Unfortunately for Columbus, if they lose, even if they tie, this is not a good situation for them, because now they have to play an Atlanta team that just got beat by Cincinnati, has not, they've two losses, and so they're going to have to come at them, and Atlanta's going to want to count out of pride. So Columbus has, if they don't get the result tonight, there's an opportunity there as well.
It's interesting when you mention Atlanta and some of the other teams that have struggled through the first game or two, depending on the situation. Again, remember, these points count for the regular season.
Exactly right.
So even if you said, well, we're eliminated, we're not going to go through into the knockout stage, you still want to win the game because you want to be able to get the 3 points and at least leave with something.
And that's what the tournament I love about the fact that, they're points at hand, there's Champions League berth, there's $1.1 million in hand. That always gets people a little bit excited about this tournament. But, yeah, you said it. I think this is one of those things where there's an opportunity here that we have to take advantage of.
And we'll be able to talk about it in our post-match show. Was New York able to dictate the style of play like they did against Atlanta the other night? Again, kickoff coming up at 10:30. We're getting set to sign off here, leading you right into Montreal and Toronto. Again, that game is on Fox Sports 1. Steve and I have the radio call for you coming up at 10:30 rather, after the 8 o'clock game. You can catch us on the New York Red Bulls website, our TuneIn radio channel as well. So that will do it for us here. The Red Bulls pre-match show presented by Southern New Hampshire University. New York and Columbus. Huge matchup in Group E, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. 10:30, we are right back on the TuneIn radio channel that we just spoke of. Just prior to kickoff, right at 10:30, Steve and I will carry you all the way through. Listen to the match live. Watch us tomorrow in the post-game show on YouTube. Tune in as well. Fox Sports 1 has the TV broadcast. For all of us here at Red Bull Arena, Rich Kaufman, his crew, Gordon Stevenson, everybody else, Steve Jolly, Matt Harmon, look forward to seeing you after the game tonight.